Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, July the 5th. Well, no news to report on the big nightclub shooting late Friday night in Little Rock that left 25 people with gunshot wounds and 3 others injured. Only 5 people, remain in the hospital since then. All are expected to survive. But 4 days later, in a shooting that occurred in front of dozens of witnesses, no single suspect has been arrested for any of the shooting that night, which is something interesting to behold. Perhaps nobody wants to say who they saw do the shooting for fear of retaliation. That's been reported in some other violent incidents in town. They do have in custody the rapper who performed that night for being a felon in possession of a firearm. This is on a warrant out of another case on another club shooting in Forest City, Arkansas. Questions remain about that. This same fellow advertised his appearance in Little Rock holding a gun when it's supposed, because of his felony record, he's not supposed to have a gun. Why did it take until Sunday in Birmingham to arrest him on that federal charge when the warrant was outstanding on him? Questions for police there. Also for why Little Rock police, who were hired to provide private security that night at the event, left at 2 o'clock with the club apparently still hopping, still full of music, still serving people after the supposed closing time. Lots of questions, still looking for answers. At the state capitol today, Secretary of State Mark Martin decided to go ahead and partially comply with a request for a vast amount of voter information that's being sought by a so-called Election Integrity Commission set up by Donald Trump and headed by Chris Kobach, the Secretary of State of Kansas, who's spent most of his public career trying to suppress the vote and root out fake voter fraud to get Democratic voters off the voter rolls. Martin says he's just going to supply information that's publicly available from voter registration records. He hasn't yet specifically said just what this is: name, address, age, birth date, perhaps. It'd be interesting to see if he'll provide that information to other people as readily as he provided to Chris Kobach. He's already sent that information. The governor urged him not to provide everything Kobach wanted, and so Martin said he didn't, but I still think he supplied too much, and he supplied information that's not readily available, in my experience, to the voters of Arkansas. I've sent an FOI request to see if that's changed now that he's being so helpful with somebody who's not a citizen of Arkansas, and it's only citizens to whom the FOI law applies. The state of Arkansas said today in its monthly revenue report that the state ended the year with a $15 million surplus. That's not much on a $6.5 billion budget, but it's ahead of forecast, and it'll meet most of the state's budget for the year. The money's been bouncing up and down. There was a big increase in sales tax and income tax in the last couple of months of the year. Senators, U.S. senators, do you know where yours is? They weren't much in evidence Tuesday around the country, including in Arkansas. Missed some of the big July 4th events. They don't want to answer questions about this pending health legislation. Tom Cotton was particularly low profile, and he helped write the legislation. John Bozeman's office wouldn't say where he was going to be Tuesday. He turned up at a little veterans event in Springdale, but without advance notice, so that no unhappy demonstrators would show up and ask him uncomfortable questions. Sometime they can keep running, but they're going to have to vote on this bill one way or the other. Citizens Against Taxation with Representation is a grassroots group in Little Rock that opposed a tax extension for the Little Rock School District. They're unhappy now that the school district is going to go ahead with some borrowing and under so-called second lien bonds to raise some money for a new high school and other improvements. This is money that can be borrowed without asking taxpayers for a voter to pledge any taxes. They think better planning needs to be done for the budget. They can't likely stop this. It's in the control of the State Board of Education, and that group has shown itself very unfriendly to the Little Rock School District and supportive of whatever Johnny Key wants. And he was acting as the Little Rock School Board when he met in an unannounced one-man meeting and secretly approved this spending plan. It was only announced sometime later to the public. Up in Jonesboro, 2 new district court judges said they were going to do something about the cycle of people being found guilty of misdemeanors and then paying fine after fine and never quite getting out from under the yoke of a debtor's prison and having to go to court. They were going to do away with a private probation system there. A company in Memphis has been running for years and making tens of thousands of dollars in profit. The judge says we can do that on our own, and granted amnesty to everybody who'd been under the probation services, paid services before. That probation company is not happy. It's filed a federal court lawsuit saying judges can't interfere with its contract rights. That's a novel legal approach. We shall see how that turns out. What else? Some interesting things. Oh, God's Not Dead producers. That's a sort of an evangelical Christian movie, and they made a sequel that was filmed in Arkansas. Have given $25,000 toward Jason Rapert's campaign to replace the Ten Commandments monument broken up by a good Christian, Bible-believing driver, I should add, last week at the state capitol. He's still raising another $100,000 in an online pledge campaign. The original monument cost $26,000, so Rapert hopes to be about $100,000 to the good. What he's got in mind for that extra money, don't know. And finally, more music and gunfire news from Conway. Music doesn't always soothe the savage breast, as the poet once said. A man in Conway got unhappy about the loud music his neighbor was playing next door, went there with a gun. Neighbor had a baseball bat but couldn't unlimber it before he got shot in the chest. He survived, but the man who did the shooting is in jail. And that's our happy tune for today. I'm Max Brantley. Resist.